is going to talk to us about the benefits of EV roaming and also some of the hurdles that we still need to overcome. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO at Compleo Charging Software, Jörg Lohr.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for the introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, classmates. Good to see everybody again after such a long time of not being able to be at a conference. When we just introduced the title of that presentation to the Hubject team, it was like, wow, what are they going to talk about when they say the dead-end road of roaming? Let me just quickly, before we start walking you through the pros and cons of roaming versus direct payment, which is everybody's topic at the moment. Let me just tell you one experience I had yesterday and today. Those 2 days, everybody is talking a lot about customer journey, customer experience, and simplicity. And in the landscape of international conferences and EV conferences and get-togethers, I think in terms of customer journey and also customer satisfaction with the app, the entrance, registration, all the items and gadgets we get here in Berlin. I think the Intercharge Network Conference is way beyond what's a job for the Hubject team. That's what we experience and what I experience. So first of all, a big thank you to the Hubject team, Christian, and the entire group of people who are passionate in making this happen. So my first desire is to say thank you to the Hubject team that we all are able to be here. So thanks, everybody. And the same, and that's not given as granted, we had a very nice little panel discussion yesterday with a couple of key stakeholders and decision makers in e-mobility, and all of us were competitors. So outside this conference, we are just fighting for customers and hunting for quick wins. And here everybody is coming together, making it happen that we can join this conference for free. So also here, a big thank you to Last Mile Solutions, Charge Cloud, this whole family of EV enthusiasts to bring us together. Thanks to all the sponsors of the ICNC. Thank you very much. So, is roaming going to be a dead-end road? And why the hell are we talking about this topic as a charging station manufacturer and a solution provider or back-end operator? So let me walk you through who we are, and then I would love to give you some insights on how we got to the point where this discussion came up. Is roaming going to be a dead-end road? Is it a dead horse we are riding? Is it going to survive? Because we had all that conversation and discussion internally the last couple of months, and I'm going to tell you why. And then, of course, there's a conclusion and a way forward we should take. So who are we? In a few words, Compleo itself is a charging station manufacturer. We call ourselves a solution provider, born north of Dortmund in North Rhine-Westphalia. Compleo had a kind of a hyper-growth phase, acquiring a company called Wallbe with the Wallbe Hub and also hardware located in Paderborn 1.5 years ago. And then there was a big deal last year, which was announced that Compleo thought, well, that's not enough, let's just get another chance. And Compleo acquired Innogy eMobility Solutions as part of the E.ON Group. And what you have to know about Innogy eMobility Solutions is that this is one of the pioneers and also one of the founding members of Hubject. So in the market since 10 years, and Compleo acquired that part as well. And all of a sudden, we were faced with two different backend systems, two different mentalities, two different philosophies, because Wallbe, a promoter for direct payment and physical payment solutions, and Innogy being a founding member of Hubject. So there was a clash of cultures from day one, and this is what I want to walk you through today. So who are we? Compleo itself, a solution provider for charging infrastructure, AC, DC, the high power chargers in the pipeline being launched in Q1, Q2 next year. Sorry, let's go back for a second. In terms of the software, again, nothing which the competitors and the other players don't have. We've got a subscription model, typical CPO backend system. There are a couple of features with load management, various load management options, but again, nothing which other players do not provide as well. Compleo itself also sees itself as a kind of general contractor, network planner, location planner, so the value creation or value chain is quite big. When it comes to software, has, again, as I said, two different systems, eOperate being the Innogy e-mobility backend, fully committed to roaming, and on the other side, Enterprise, formerly known as the Wallbe Hub, a back-end solution with various use cases. We call it Enterprise because it's more for the corporate charging, direct payment, and again, they clash together. More interesting is the couple of numbers and facts and figures we pulled together, not for self-advertisement, but just to walk you along our history and our insights we had the last couple of months to bring those two worlds together and to find a common strategy for this company, but also for the market. So, as I said, since 2008, the Innogy part of our team in backend operations is continuously and constantly innovating, really driven by innovation, driven by that pioneer of e-mobility. As I speak in front of you today, we've got roughly 45,200 charging stations directly connected to both platforms. Yes, it doesn't make sense to run two platforms in parallel, but there is reasons why we still keep that setup going. In terms of the number of charging stations, and especially the marketed charging stations via roaming, we can call ourselves number one with roughly 17% of the marketed or available, publicly available charging stations in Germany. Year to date, some numbers quite impressive. 122 gigawatt hours energy were charged through both backend systems with roughly 57,000 tons CO2 savings until September. What we see, and we've been discussing that yesterday in a panel discussion as well, is a hyper growth in transactions already and charging sessions. So we see an exponential growth since a couple of months. At the beginning of the year, we started with roughly 130,000 marketed transactions per month. On the same network, we are in a range of 300 to 320,000 at the moment. So there is an exponential growth in utilization of charging infrastructure, transactions, charging sessions, but there's also a high degree of complexity, which is growing more and more when it comes to reliability, clearing charging sessions, and the whole process of authorization and payment. Well, both teams together, 110 FTE, fully committed to e-mobility, so that's basically a bit the size of who we are and where we are, and there is one special feature slash project which was invented and developed by the Innogy part of the team, which is called eMarketplace, which is basically a roaming platform underneath the umbrella of Hubject. And I would like to introduce you eMarketplace because that makes you better understand where those numbers come from. I'm going to show you. So eMarketplace is basically a sub-roaming platform underneath the umbrella of Hubject, and I'm going to show you a movie on how it works.
As the number of electric cars is rising, more and more charging stations are needed. Therefore, drivers will find them not only at traditional fuel stations, but everywhere. In cities, at work, at hotels, or at supermarkets. Imagine you are a business owner who would like to participate in this movement and offer your employees, clients, or guests a charging service. But as soon as charges are built, you may ask how to get the most out of them. How does anyone know where your charge points are? How do they get access with their favorite payment method? And ultimately, how would you get your money from drivers which you often don't even know personally? That is the point where Compleo eMarketplace comes in. The digital platform which connects operators of charging stations with charging service providers all over Europe. For you as a business owner, it's just 3 steps. Connect your chargers to the Compleo software platform, pick which chargers should be shown in apps and car navigation systems, set your individual prices. Now eMarketplace takes over. Your chargers are shown in apps and car navigations in real time. Customers with charging contracts activate your chargers with their app or card. Without contracts, customers get access via a QR code so they can use PayPal, Visa, or MasterCard. You automatically get your money from all transactions into your bank account without writing invoices to different parties.
So we could ask, why the hell do we need another roaming platform, and how does it fit into the roaming landscape in Europe already? Well, the answer is, if you see the ramp-up curves and the predictions of EV infrastructure forecasts, you see that within those 15 million charge points, which should be in the ground in Europe in 2030. There's 90% of what we call the small and medium entities or small and medium enterprise businesses. And regardless the simplicity of connecting your charge points to Hubject or gREV in the meantime, all those companies, they do not have an e-mobility team. They can't afford to build up their own processes, connections, APIs, and landscapes to run that business or to run EV infrastructure. It's not their core business, and they are looking for a solution rather than a piece of software. And that's exactly why the team developed eMarketplace as a kind of sub-roaming to say, well, just give me your charge points, I'm going to take care of it, and you decide whether you want to have it connected to a roaming platform, to the outside world, or whether you stay in your local neighborhood. Yeah, in the meantime, it works quite well. It's getting a bigger and bigger footprint because, again, it's aggregating a number of small and medium CPOs who would themselves not have the capabilities to be member or part of that big family of roaming players along the value chain. So that's where eMarketplace is coming from. And that's just important because it explains a little bit on what the data is showing us in a couple of seconds from operating the charging networks, both on the Wallbe Hub or Enterprise and eOperate. So when it comes to the question of is roaming or is direct payment killing roaming, or is roaming a dead-end road, again, we had the same discussion at the beginning of the year when we just merged both teams. The one team coming from the energy world saying, well, direct payment is way too complicated. It's insecure, it's not needed. We are 85% with roaming, so why the hell do we need direct payment? And the regulator is just driving it because there are still hurdles in roaming. On the other side, the Wallbe team coming in saying, well, roaming is just too expensive, too complex, still not 100% footprint, so let's just go to direct payment and physical payment devices because that's what everybody wants to have because everybody has a credit card. And then we said, okay, let's not just fight against each other, let's just do both and let the numbers speak. And what you see here is the key messages in a takeaway from the last couple of months of operations is there is no black and white. There's not the one or the other solution. To give you some input parameters on the Compleo Enterprise, mainly driven by commercial clients, the numbers we are seeing are provided by a network of CPOs who provide both methods. That's important, so we did not select the one or the other. We analyzed roughly 550 commercial EVSE. The interesting thing is that the EV driver price, so the final price towards the end customer for direct payment was roughly 30% lower than the end customer price via roaming, depending on the MSP, but on average. And we analyzed 36,000 charging sessions. Direct payment in this case means a physical terminal integrated in the VSE with a local interaction, so no other roaming processes behind. And you see that, surprisingly, it's roughly 50-50. So even if direct payment is less expensive for the EV driver, 50% of the authentications and the charging sessions are done via roaming and the roaming process. There's a bit of a difference in the average charging time, 45 minutes direct payment, 36 minutes roaming. Again, it's quite fresh. 36,000 charging sessions is nothing, but still it gives us an indication. Average consumption, of course, is following the charging time. So it's quite balancing between direct payment and roaming. And that was the first surprise because we really thought, and especially our customers, the CPOs behind that, they thought, well, okay, if we go down in the direct payment price, then it's given as granted that we do not need roaming anymore. So why do we need to operate that Hubject interface? Let's just focus on direct payment. And then, surprise, surprise, after the first 4 weeks of operation, we saw that no, we definitely need that network and we definitely need those processes and the well-established landscape and architecture of roaming, because a lot of customers still are, not still, but they are using their MSP product for simplicity and reliability reasons. So that was the first surprise. And then when it comes to the second backend, the eOperate, where we have way more data because it's the bigger architecture, the picture is even getting a bit more imbalanced, again, due to that eMarketplace and the sub-roaming platform underneath the umbrella of Hubject, which is well established. There is a landscape of a lot of small and medium CPOs who were connected to each other, who know each other, mainly driven by the famous German Stadtwerke. the landscape looks way more different. So we analyzed 38,000 charge points, 92% of them are AC, publicly available. The price tag towards the EV driver, 20% less than roaming, still a commercial benefit for the EV driver. We analyzed about 300,000 transactions, and both in France and Germany, where we analyzed those charging stations, we provided both methods, direct payment and roaming. And you see that it's way more imbalanced. So the majority of charging sessions is authorized and processed via roaming. The yellow bar is called direct payment, and then external and internal payment means external payment would be roaming via Hubject or GREF, and internal roaming is that e-marketplace architecture. So by far the biggest number of charging transactions we have is coming through the funnel of Hubject or GREF. And that was surprising because we thought, well, there's a direct payment, it's incentivized, it's way cheaper. We have that internal roaming platform for our own customers, for the local utilities. So everything is in place to replace a roaming platform or the roaming landscape. And still 85% of the charging sessions is coming from the outside world and well-established European acting MSPs. And that was really something which also surprised our team. As you can see, also the average revenue per charging session per customer type, direct payment is a bit less in terms of volume, kilowatt hours, and also price. External and internal roaming is just shifting a little bit. The reason behind that is that the internal roaming has some commercial benefits between those local utilities. So that explains why the transaction volume is a bit higher, but the number of charging sessions by far is coming from the external world and the roaming world. So that brought us to a conclusion saying that, okay, where do we gonna go? And I mean, each of the players and backend providers here in the room and at the conference is asking the same question. We need to calculate a business case, we need to calculate our capacities, we need to look a way forward. Everybody is asking, do we focus on direct payment? Do we focus on roaming? What's the way forward and what's going to be the future? So our conclusion, which we would love to share with you, because we should create the market and not competition, there's room for competition later on when we are in a mass market, is that if we if we recapture roaming a little bit, 80% of the charging networks in Europe are already covered by one of the roaming solutions. So there's 20 remaining percent we would need to cover, which is still isolated local solutions or it's legacy from former initiatives. But 80% of the network is already connected and accessible. So why don't we just focus on getting the remaining 20% ready and completed in order to have a unified European roaming platform? Direct payment, especially the famous German Ladesäulenverordnung, is at this stage opening another layer. We've had this discussion in a panel yesterday, last night, with a couple of decision makers saying that it's not just that credit card reader which is making the piece of infrastructure more expensive, it's processes like the receipt printer, other APIs, other digital processes. So we are basically running in the same complexity we wanted to reduce on the roaming side. So in addition to the complexity we still have in the roaming landscape, we are now adding another layer of complexity and potentially frustration to the end customer if things do not go well with direct payment. Physical devices, we are in a very competitive landscape. Again, they're adding additional costs, they're adding additional complexity, serviceability, and also after-sales initiatives. So it's making the whole ecosystem, again, more complex, more expensive, in our view, although we are a charging station manufacturer as well. Automotive industry, with adding plug and charge, and we've heard that a lot, is adding another layer of convenience and simplicity. So why shouldn't we focus on, getting that forward and getting that rolled out, deployed, and also working, and focusing on what's already on the market. And customer centricity should be the driver of all innovation and not technical limitation. Let's not forget why the German government is talking about direct payment, enforcing direct payment. It's not because they are convinced that there's simplicity. It's not because they are convinced that it's bringing any other, let's say, customer-centric approach. It's because in their opinion, roaming is not where it should be. So it's just adding another option to the market rather than saying, well, we heavily believe that this is going to be the end of the game and this is simplicity at its best. So instead of adding a new complexity, again, we should focus on bringing things to the end and completing development, which we started a couple of years ago. And last night in the panel, we heard a lot about killer features. Everybody is looking for the killer feature, saying, well, you know, whenever we find the killer feature in roaming, we just made it. Whenever we find the killer feature in direct payment, we're going to be heroes. Well, I think personally we don't need any killer feature. We just need simplicity and reliability, because that's what the end customer is expecting from us. We should make things simple and reliable, and we should just see that the customer journey and customer satisfaction is the driver of all innovation. And yeah, with that little conclusion and insight from data, I can't give you the answer on whether it's good or not, or we're going to go to the right or to the left. Our gut feeling and our conclusion within the Compleo software team is there's definitely not going to be a black or white. We should focus on both. We should enable both methods, but clearly roaming is needed and is getting a growing number of customers and drivers who are enjoying the simplicity of e-roaming. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jörg. We do have a couple of questions that have been sent in by our participants. And a quick reminder to everybody, all you have to do if you would like to send a question to one of our speakers is to be in the session on the app, and there's a little green button, and you click on the button, and there's on the top right, Ask. You push on that, and then you can type in your question. So Livio sent us a question asking, how does eMarketplace ensure chargers submitted on the platform by individual CPOs are working and or reliable?
That's a very good question. There's an onboarding process. So within the team, there's a group called Technical Partner Management. So of course, we need to make sure that chargers we get underneath our umbrella and under our management or control are reliable and are working. But this is, in the meantime, it's standard processes. So there's an acceptance test procedure which ensures that the charging points are working. Both backend systems are hardware agnostic, so it doesn't matter whether it's an Alpitronic charger or a Compleo charger. There's standard processes behind, but of course we would not accept those chargers if they would not be fitting to standard protocols.
All right, thank you. I believe we have another question from Jan. He asks, who earns the CO2 credits, GHG quotas, from charge points connected to eMarketplace?
We would love to be the marketer, and there are two customers who handed over the credits to us, but this is definitely, of course, not our core business. So the CPOs decide what to do with the CO2 credits. We leave it up to them. Some of them are asking us to market them. Again, that's another revenue stream we have, but it's not our core business. We are focusing on getting charging stations reliable, getting the network accessible, and leave it to the CPOs, to our customers, what to do with the credits.
Okay. I think we have time for a few more questions. This one is from Hans. He asks, do you incorporate energy market aspects in the eMarketplace? What is your way forward regarding dynamic pricing, and will these be implemented via roaming?
Thank you very much, Hans. I know my team can't hear it anymore because I think we do not need to invent the wheel again and again. And if you look at other industries, I think dynamic pricing is just a logical next step in commercializing networks. So there's a couple of famous pictures on some Ionity stations where you see 38 cars queuing to wait to get a high power charging access. And I mean, the petrol industry is doing dynamic pricing since decades. So I think when it comes to a commercial utilization of networks, dynamic pricing is definitely going to be the next way forward, but not really coming from that energy wholesale market as a driver. That's one of the parameters, but utilization is another parameter. Yesterday we heard that load management balancing is a big topic. I know from my own past that getting access to the medium voltage grid, especially on high power chargers, is way too expensive. So balancing load and incentivizing the customer, or steering and managing charging utilization by using the model of pricing as a steering tool is definitely going to be the next step here.
Thank you very much. I think we have time for maybe 2 more questions. Let's have a look. From Zachin, he asks, what about roaming hub prices? It's killing the business case. There isn't any margin and customers want lower prices.
Well, that's one of the theses we continuously discuss also internally, right? And it's true. I mean, roaming hub prices are a part of the price logic towards the end customer. That's true. Let's not forget that. Is it really killing the business case? Well, no. I would say if it really would be the case, then none of us would be in EV industry anymore and not believe in a sustainable business case. I think it's about scalability and also kind of self-regulation of the market. So we are at the bottom of a hockey stick of that market, and everybody is expecting that exponential growth and volume. And what we also see in our own business case and business plan is that, of course, margins will significantly decrease, which we need to compensate by volume. But everybody hopefully agrees that when we have that volume of a mass market, then those upfront invests and those costs and the return on invest is way more predictable in higher volumes than we have now. And I expect that along that price chain and the process chain, we definitely see a decrease of cost. We need to, because otherwise we don't get a market breakthrough. So I would disagree that it's killing the business case. It's maybe a snapshot 2022 and historical data, that's true, but for the future, I think it's just part of the process chain.
Okay, let's have another question. I think we can squeeze another one in. This one is from Achim. He asks, when will Compleo drop all patent attempts on roaming-related technology and support the industry instead of keeping roaming complicated?
You know what? I was expecting that as the first question. So, yeah, I know the historical discussion. Well, bear with me. I'm just member of the board of executives of the group since 2 weeks, so I still need a little time. I mean, it is a valid question. On the other side, to advertise a little bit for the, let's say, approach Compleo was selecting, using patents is just normal in other industries, right? And making use of innovation and of invention is something which we see in other industries every day. So is it right to make sure that your innovation and your pioneering is protected? Yes, why not? Is it right to drop it to the market in 2022 and not having all the answers to questions which are coming from the market? I would say we could have done better. So bear with us a couple of more weeks. We have it on the radar. We know that this was a painful communication into the market. I think Compleo learned from that. And we do not want to make things more complicated. That's for sure. We want to simplify them. And we are part of the Hubject family. We are here to discuss and to see a way forward. So yes, we definitely do not want to make things more complicated. We want to simplify them, and we definitely take that serious.
All right, you heard it here. Let's get one last question. I think we have another 90 seconds. This one is from Itamar. He asks, don't you think that direct payment is enabling better interoperability, especially when looking at transit across Europe?
Well, no. Let me just, well, clearly, no, it's not enabling better interoperability. Let me just put aside my head of Compleo and just speak from my own experience. For a couple of years, I've been joining Ionity as, next to Tesla, the only pan-European charge point operator. A couple of guys are with me. We had a long and painful journey because next to Tesla, that was the first case in Europe where a CPO needed to take care of 24 different legislations, 24 different payment methods, 24 different tax regulations. And we had the same situation. And still, you can, or see where we ended up. You can just travel from Norway to Spain with one MSP card, and it is working. So is direct payment adding an alternative? Clearly, yes. Is it making things better? I would say no, because roaming already has a development stage and a completion stage, which enables us to have cross-country traffic and cross-border traffic without any hurdle. Yes, there is still a way to go. Let's not ignore that. But is direct payment enabling better interoperability? I would say no. It's just another option.
All right, Jörg Löhr from Compleo, thank you so very much for all of your insights, and thank you, as always, to our participants for sending such excellent questions.
Thank you very much.